You say we live in a matriarchy.
Right.
Can you give me the definition of patriarchy?
Yes. Well, the patriarchy is the idea that the system, our system in America, is being run by men, and that women are having to exist under a system that immediately disadvantages them because men are behind it. And I disagree with that pointedly. I think actually we're living in a society where people are being very much influenced socially and politically by women.
Okay, so the denotative definition of patriarchy is father rule, and where positions of government are held majorly by men, where women are largely excluded. So 125 House of Representatives are female, and that's only about 25%.
Right.
And only about 28% make up Senate, and 3.3% of Congress up until this date have ever been women. So by denotative definition, we literally live in a patriarchy.
Yes, so I disagree with that. So I think what this gets to, which is actually an important part of the conversation, is that people always think that where there is disparity, there's somehow inequality, and I actually reject that entirely. I think it's just a difference in what we're interested in. I think we're biologically wired, we're interested in different careers, and just because if we looked in the fashion industry and said, oh, well, it's being dominated by women, it wouldn't mean that, okay, well, that means that the fashion industry is a matriarchy and men have no sense. It just means have no ability to communicate how they feel in the fashion industry. I literally think that those numbers show that we're just biologically different. So I actually think politically, women have shown that they have a lot more power than men have. And I'm talking about just in terms of political movements. The most recent I can think of is the Me Too movement, right? If a bunch of women get together and complain about a man and refer to the patriarchy and scream, generally speaking, and let me know if you agree, the media will celebrate that. If a bunch of men got together and were shrieking and speaking about women, generally speaking, the media would call them all white supremacists and say that we had a misogyny problem and that things were really wrong in society. Women are allowed to be more vocal in general about problems than men are.
Well, let me speak to that. When we're talking about government and media, these are two different things. So under the denotative definition of a patriarchy, by the percentages that are occupied in the government, which is majority male, defines us as a patriarchy. Now, what it comes to for capitalism, for marketing purposes and control, for capital and revenue, that is a totally different conversation. But who's making the laws? I don't think that women are the ones voting to have their reproductive rights taken away, where you have rape, incest, and all of these things excluded to force women to be able to have. I don't think women in government would largely vote against their own interests.
Yeah, we know America is a patriarchy. That's no cap. Men still run the show. That's just facts. The real issue isn't really men versus women. It's wicked leadership at the top. If brothers led like God told them to lead, and they was loving hard, walking the truth, doing right, feminism wouldn't even be a thing. In the book of Job, in chapter 9, verse 24, it tells us that the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. That means there's wicked niggas out here ruling. So you can't blame masculinity. You got to blame the power that's been twisted. Feminism popped off because women got tired of being abused, silenced, treated unfair. And when you go in Romans 1, it shows us what happens when we walk away from the wisdom of the Most High. Nothing but confusion, chaos, and flip roles come. So yeah, women do deal with inequality, but the root isn't patriarchy itself. It's perverted patriarchy. Patriarchy ain't the enemy. Corrupt patriarchy is. And like I said, if men move like Christ, we wouldn't be this divided. We'd be more united. So this ain't a war on men. It's a war on wicked men, on wickedness, people in high places. And once we line back up with the Most High's order, feminism is a movement that won't even be necessary. Shalom.